Bienvenue, welcome and come on in. This is Sydney calling, everybody. It is the grand final recap for Eurovision 2023, hosted in the wonderful city of Liverpool. On behalf of the Ukraine, I'm Chris. Christy has a touch of the sinus, so unfortunately will not be joining us, although I do have her opinions to share. So don't worry about that. But who I do have back, of course, after his semi-final review with me is Nurman. How are we?
Hello,
Hello.
Paul calling.
So that was certainly a grand final. It was,
Yes, that was.
look, I think it's a really weird one. Obviously, I'm not gonna say spoiler alert because if you're listening to this, you've watched. Sweden win with Loreen. We did, interestingly enough, the thing we said might happen nearly happened, which
Yes.
is her vocal in the grand final might suffer a little bit and the popular vote might take over. And it
I
nearly
think
happened.
I did say that there is a, a large potential that Finland would win. I
Yes.
think Finland, I said Finland was going to be the winner,
Yeah.
and that was very close to it. Um,
And the reason that we came up with too was the same one, which is that the Loreen staging and the vocal might not necessarily be at its best. And I'll say it straight up, her semi-vocal was a lot better than her grand final vocal. Her grand final vocal was not her best work. It opened the door a little bit. Popular vote versus jury vote. We'll talk about all of this stuff coming up. But Loreen gets over the top of Finland. There were a couple of interesting dark horses.
okay, talking about it generally.
Yeah, we'll talk generally first before we get into specifics.
How do you feel about this grand?
I think something weird, and I'm not saying it was rigged. I want to make that clear. Something weird happened with the voting this year. Very weird. Almost nobody got votes outside of about 4 countries. Right? Almost nobody got. The juries were weird because the way the juries voted was utterly bizarre. The example we'll give, and I am baffled by the jury's love of Israel, which makes zero sense given how juries normally vote compared to popular. I would have expected that if anyone was going to vote for Israel, it probably would have been the popular vote. The jury's going heavy on Israel was out of character for all of the juries. It didn't feel like anybody got anything, like all the way through. It just felt like everyone got, and then when the popular votes came out, it felt like everyone got shafted. I don't know.
I'm gonna start by saying this. I didn't hate it.
I didn't hate it,
Um,
but
I think it was enjoyable enough.
yeah.
I think I don't know. I wonder whether the fact that the jury members voted based on performance the day prior,
Yes. So
performance from the rehearsal, as opposed to the real show, made a difference in
so
terms
this
of
so this is something we have to
quality.
mention for anyone who doesn't know. The juries judge the rehearsal of the grand final, and then the audience vote is on the performance. So the juries aren't voting on the same thing that the audience is voting on. They're voting on different performances. And for example, in the rehearsal, we know that Norway and France had problems with their high note in the rehearsal, which they did not have live in the actual performance. But the jury vote was based on the performance where they did have a problem with a high note. So it's I think the biggest problem for the voting is that the juries and the audience are voting on a different show. They're not voting on the same thing. You know, you go watch any live performance ever, and you're not seeing the same thing back to back nights. Like you're just not. They're different performances. So what they're voting on is different performances. Also, you use your rehearsal as well to tune up for your grand final. So you do your rehearsal, you go, oh, we can do this a lot better. You do something a bit different the next night. It's like that's the point of rehearsal. If it's not a real rehearsal, if it's, again, a jury show where you vote and then the audience votes, call it the jury show.
Yes.
And make everyone. Now, so there was a tweet that went out towards the end, which is that since they changed the voting to be this big split system with the two, because they used to just combine them together. Now they've changed it to this weighted split system. Since they've changed it, but before they changed it, the voting was always basically in line, juries and televotes. Since they've changed the system to the split, 3 times the jury vote has overwhelmed the popular vote. It's been, and I just feel like if you're going to do a split vote system like this, they've got to vote on the same thing. And there's no reason why the juries can't vote on the same performances. They've got 15 minutes. What's stopping them from voting on the same show? Like, if I get it, if it was the old system with like pen and paper and the juries have to sit there and deliberate, and you got 15 minutes to work out who to give 12 votes to. How hard is it?
Well, okay. I suppose I'm gonna be devil's advocate here. I'm always devil's advocate.
Yeah.
Because you have to decide on, you know, who you're giving 12 points to, 10 points, blah 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 blah. That ordering might take a little bit more time to decide.
Well, the other option is you let them watch the rehearsal, but the voting happens off the main show. So you can start your discussions off the rehearsal, but the main show needs to be taken into account. Like if you have a problem with a note in rehearsal, but you nail it on the main show, that shouldn't be held against you. Like, you know, imagine you're at the Tony Awards and and the Tony goes to, well, it can't go to you because your rehearsal note was a bit flat, even though your performance was brilliant. Your rehearsal note was flat, so sorry, you don't get the Tony Award. Someone else gets it. Like, that's stupid. So have them watch the rehearsal and use it to start the deliberations, but you vote off the back of the main show.
Yeah, I think that's true too, because I mean that's the way that I use the Eurovision app, and where I order my preference like the top 12.
Yeah.
Sorry, top 12. The top 4 actually. I did top 4 for my voting, and as the show went, I reordered my preference based on the performance.
And again, you started off by going, this is what I think. Then you watch the grand final and you go, oh, that turned it around. And there were a few songs that did well in the semi that you looked at in the grand final and went, oh, that's weird. That didn't go very well. And there were a few songs that really lifted in the grand final and were really good, that had been like, again, and France had, even though it didn't have to qualify, for example, France had problems all week. And we know there were issues with sound in the arena as well. That was something that was very well discussed. And like we talked about it a little bit. And let's start with Austria, one of your favorites.
Yes.
Their staging was horrific, and we talked about that earlier. Whoever came up with that staging idea for them should be shot, because they were drowning on the stage.
I think the staging killed it. The second thing is that I don't know if this sound system was lacking a little bit of bass.
It didn't sound like there was any bass in the sound at all for them.
No, like it sounded really quiet.
And I don't know if it was the right one to start.
Oh no, definitely not. I'm still really mad that they actually open the grand final.
Yeah, the drawing, we were talking about it before we started. The way they drew that feels like, again, if you do well in a semi, you should get higher up preference. And
Yes.
like first draw should go to one of the 10th seeds. So one of the two that came 10th should get first. Like that's that simple. I think there were a few songs.
Maybe not the not the 10th seed.
Yeah.
Maybe like if you place 8th to 10th, so that way that gives you a little bit of leeway. Imagine if you've got two ballads placing 10th.
Well, to give you an idea, nobody, the first eight, 12th was the best finish out of the first eight performers. 12th. And then the ninth performer was Loreen.
Yes.
So you had Austria 15th, Portugal 23rd, Switzerland 20, Poland 19, Serbia 24, France 16, we'll come back to that, Cyprus 12, and Spain 17. Then you had Sweden. And then Albania. So like in the first 10, everybody was outside of 12 and above except for the winner.
Okay. The other thing that I didn't like was the ordering between that running order 8 to 12.
Yeah.
That I did not like that.
So 8 to 12 was Spain, Sweden, Albania, Italy, Estonia.
Yes.
That run was not great.
Actually, can we go back to the first three?
Yeah. Austria, Portugal, Switzerland.
Austria, Portugal, Switzerland. I also hated that ordering, not just because Austria was first, but also because they're all red and black.
Yep. And I mean, look, I had said before this that I thought that Portugal would have not a great time, and I thought that Spain would not have a great time. But I don't think the positioning helped Portugal in any way, shape, or form. I actually think Portugal would have been better opening.
I think so too. I think Portugal would have been better opening, or Belgium.
I think,
or maybe Slovenia actually.
Slovenia, 5 seconds of Slovenia would have been fantastic opening. But I think Portugal would have actually been a good call to open the show, because I think if Portugal had opened the show, it's a bit of fun, it's a bit of color. You're sort of getting something a bit more upbeat. Again, as I said, not my personal cup of tea, but in that spot, it would have done really well. Austria is not that song. Like, no. Austria is not that song. And you could hear, the only time you could hear anything was when the audience started going po, 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 po. Like, the audience loves that. And you could see that they were sort of drowning a bit on the stage and with the timing and everything else. And then after the first lot of the po, po, po bit, they started to get a bit more into it. But you could sort of, I was watching it again before, and you can see them, they looked really lost. They just looked lost. And I felt really bad for them. It wasn't a bad performance. I think the staging sucked, and I think positioning and staging killed them. Portugal,
I think their voice was actually better than the semi.
Yeah. Oh god, yeah.
I enjoyed it better than
great.
Semi. Because they were in tune. But I think the sound system, the lack of bass really killed it, because
it's a bass song.
What I really enjoyed about, the music video was that sort of the beat.
Yeah.
But it was missing that beat.
It was, yeah. I just felt that it was missing something. Portugal was largely inoffensive, as I anticipated. Not great, inoffensive.
She's got great voice.
She does. I didn't like the song. I think the song was horrific. Switzerland, we talked about Switzerland in the lead up and said that we like his voice. The song is horrifically bad. And like someone from Switzerland singing about not wanting to be a soldier.
It's on.
I was talking to someone. I was talking to somebody who's not a Eurovision person, and they'd watched it, and their comment was, it's a song that has more of an impact if it's like actually from a country where they've gone through some form of strife,
Yes.
because then there's more meaning to it. Where it's this guy from neutral Switzerland singing about not wanting to fight, and it's like, dude,
It's a bit preachy. It's sort of like,
cliche as all
oh,
hell.
yeah. I I like his voice. I like the fact that he's got really nice
And then we
deep voice, but the song was just not it.
and then we move on to, as Christy described her, Ace of Blanca. Um, for Poland,
I made my first coffee
you did.
during
In the
Polish performance.
we had a group chat going, and at this point was when Nurman went, okay, here comes my toilet break. And look, to be fair, we had a bit of a in the conversation. I'm gonna out you here for this one, Nurman, because it was a great comment, and I agree with it 100%. Nurman's comment was, at least she's had some vocal training now, and it was, vocal effects were doing so much heavy lifting. And what I was disappointed in, we talked about this too, other countries usually hide someone on stage to sing. They didn't, and they probably should have.
Well, maybe they had someone hiding behind the palm tree.
They did. They were doing a really bad job of it.
Um, it's not a difficult song. And
No.
I like the fact that was it Miv who mentioned that Blanca started from the Polish Next Top Model,
Yes. I
and
mentioned she's a model, and
she's a
that's what her
model.
career is.
Yep.
Um,
But yeah, it's look, it's not a difficult song. Um, it's not.
you know,
For someone who's a baritone, I can sing it.
it's deliberately one of those, somebody wrote this in 5 minutes for Hot Girl X to be Song of the Summer. That's what this is. Max Miller woke up one morning, stretched and dropped a couple of bars and went, there, someone have that. It's
I
just,
don't know how, like
I
the
told you,
public voted for it. Like it
I
it got more
told
points.
I told you. One, people are suckers for anything with a bit of a beat like that because, oh, it's funky, I like this. And two, and far more importantly, they sold the whole thing on looks. And there are large parts of Eastern Europe, and I've got the voting up in front of me, so I can see who voted for that monstrosity. Like, I can go through and view who voted where for what, and it makes for some really interesting reading. Armenia gave it 6. Belgium gave it 6. Denmark gave it votes. Iceland gave it votes. Ireland gave it 8. Lithuania gave it 8. The Ukraine overall gave 18 points out of the
Yes.
2. The Ukraine gave her points. 18. There's 24 on offer. The Ukraine really liked her.
So the 12 points from public for Ukraine, for Poland from Ukraine, that's 12 points, is that right?
So they got, just to give you the, I'm looking at the chart now. It's a great little chart.
Oh, she got 8th.
She got 12. She got 12 in the public vote and 8 in the jury.
She got 8th in the public, like total public.
Yeah, 8th in the public. Yeah. So yeah. So to give you an idea, like 12 jury votes, 81 in the public. In a year where nobody seemed to get over like 30 to 40. Let's go to Serbia.
Serbia's performance was hurt by the sound quality as well, because a
Yeah,
lot of the song, a lot of his singing was sort of whispery, and I just couldn't hear a lot of it.
his vocal was really bad. And again, I think it was a sound problem, but his vocal was horrible. And his vocal was fine in the semi, and I've seen it before. It was good in the national final. It was not a good one.
I wonder whether he was tired because I remember like
How do
he
you
had to
tell?
do quite a bit of choreography as well.
Yeah, but how do you tell if he was tired? Like his whole persona is non-energy.
He's a bit of a Dracula.
It's very hard to tell. I mean, what you're thinking it might be a little bit of a an Engelbert, does all the rounds and tours before Eurovision, blows his voice out, gets to the competition and can't sing.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. France, we have to.
Oh, I don't know how.
I am genuinely baffled. I mean, I said the jury vote, I understand.
You're angry.
I'm furious. I'm absolutely furious. 50 public votes. 50. 50. Cyprus got 58. Albania got 59. Right? This is what happens when France does not have a voting partner in a voting bloc. Like, there's no real partner for France. Nobody. So
Who gave France points?
So overall, the French got 17 out of the 24 from Armenia.
Yes.
Sweden gave France 12 overall. Lithuania gave them 7. Norway gave them 8. Finland gave them 7. Australia gave them
2.
Yeah, 2 overall. We didn't give them any. Yeah, it's just I'm out. I'm genuinely angry about that one. This is where there are a couple of countries that I think got absolutely shafted. And I think France is the first among the many. I don't know what the hell's going on there. Except they were 6th. And I just think being that early hurt really badly. No one remembered anything before Lorraine. Like in the voting, no one remembered anything before Lorraine.
Okay, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think the top the big 5 and Ukraine pulled their number.
Yes.
So I suppose
luck of the draw.
Unlucky.
It's luck of the draw. Look, I
Yeah.
think as well, you could see at the end of the performance that I think she was disappointed with how the rehearsal went. She went for a different, not a bad ending, by the way, but she went for a different ending than she normally goes for. And the way she did the ending, and a more casual style singing the ending. And it felt to me more like she was like, thank God that's over. I think if she had her way, they wouldn't have put her up on that platform.
Mm-hmm.
I get the feeling in hindsight, she's looking at that going, we shouldn't have gone with the platform. Don't like that. We've seen platforms fail miserably before, not in terms of like the platform fail, but just the way the vocal goes on it. Because, you're up high and you're changing the way you sing.
I mean, not everyone can be Alina Nechaeva, right?
No. I mean, Kate Miller-Heidke tried, but
she was great. Kate Miller-Heidke was great.
But also, Kate Miller-Heidke wasn't really trying to sing a lot of words when she was going completely crazy. She was just doing octave scales. Cyprus, I feel like, got a lot of votes just because he was standing on stage. Although interestingly enough,
he is pretty.
Although interestingly enough, didn't get the 12 votes from Greece.
Yeah.
So controversial. Very controversial.
He got more points from the jury than the public.
Don't remind me. He got more from the jury than he got from, and which was amazing. That was another weird jury one. And he got more popular votes than France. but it's very cliche. And there were a number of very cliche Eurovision songs this year. That was one of them. You know, You Could Break a Broken Heart is a very cliched style Eurovision song.
I wonder whether there a lot of them are focusing more on the um delivery rather than the content.
We're going to talk about Israel in a minute. So, because I have views, and Israel is going to be the focus of those views. So we'll come back to that point, because I do want to talk about that point, because I think you're right, but I want to talk about that point regarding Israel. Spain. Now, I did say that I thought that Spain was going to not do very well at all. I thought maybe it would do better with the juries. It didn't do great with the juries, and it really didn't do well with the public.
I think it's a very niche song.
I got what it was. We talked about it in the semi preview and stuff like that. I got what it was going for. I just thought it was too much of a mess. It felt like a mess.
See, I like it because it's sort of like this haunting lullaby, and I love my haunting lullabies.
Yeah, I get what you're going for with that, but I just feel like it didn't make what it was going for. It just, there were little bits and pieces all over the place. It jumped. The audience was never going to follow it. Which brings us to The Winner Takes It All. I refuse to call it Tattoo. I refuse. Point blank. When you listen to the lyrics of it, the lyrics are even The Winner Takes It All redone. It feels like you put the lyrics for The Winner Takes It All, you put it in a chat GPT, and it spat that out. Like, seriously, listen to it. She starts from the bit of the conversation in The Winner Takes It All, where she's talking about it's hurting me, but, you know, rules must be obeyed. Well, she starts from there. I was talking on Twitter. I was talking to a couple of people in particular about what was going on, and one of the ones that we were talking to a lot in particular was the Grim Recapper on Twitter, and he put out a tweet: "Is this a better song than the one she won with 11 years ago? Does it show that the contest has grown? Deep down, you know the answer to both of those questions is no." And my follow-up was, does it sound like it was on the same album as Euphoria 11 years ago? Yes. It's gone nowhere. She basically released a song that was A, a rip-off of ABBA, and B, felt like a B-side from Euphoria 11 years ago. And she didn't particularly do a good vocal job in the grand final.
I wonder how many points it would have gotten if that was not Lorraine.
If it's not Lorraine, I don't think it gets close. I think the juries in particular voted Lorraine, not song. And I think that if, put it this way, even if the jury still liked that song and gave it all those votes, I think if it goes to the popular vote, I don't think she gets enough. If it's a different artist, not Lorraine, and the jury vote was exactly the same, I don't think the popular vote is enough to jump Finland like Lorraine had. Because when Finland got those votes, you knew that it was over, because there were 600 odd votes on the board still. So Lorraine had to get enough to jump in. But I think if the song is the same and the jury vote is the same and it's a different performer, there are not enough popular votes to get that song over the line. And I think, again, I don't think the juries vote for it because Lorraine is royalty.
Yes.
And they all wanted their moment of having another winner who was like up after Johnny Logan. We got Johnny Logan and Lorraine. They were also.
I think the other thing is that since before um the competition started, there was a lot of things about, oh, if Sweden wins, this is going to equal the number of
Ireland.
wins
Yep.
that Ireland has.
And
And
the other
yeah,
thing, and the other thing was, and they had this stat ready far too quickly. The second she won, everywhere was talking about next year as the 50th anniversary of ABBA. Instantly. She wins, and they're like, and it's the 50th anniversary of ABBA, and they're going to be in Sweden. And it was
it's meant to be.
so fast. I don't I'm not gonna I don't think it was rigged. I'm gonna say that straight up. I don't think it was rigged. It wouldn't shock me if we hear later on that there was a behind the scenes campaign for Sweden to remind everybody that ABBA's 50th anniversary was next year. That wouldn't surprise me. Because it felt too fast. Like everyone jumped really quickly to, oh my God, and it's 50. Like they all suddenly remembered that it was 50 years of ABBA. Like Graham Norton said it about 15 seconds after she won. Suddenly Graham Norton's going, and next year happens to be the 50th anniversary. It was too convenient. Like people had been talking about it. It had been part of what was going on in the background. We'll come back and talk a little bit more about Loreen at the end. Albania. I don't quite understand how they made the grand final still.
I'm gonna confess,
Yeah,
I didn't listen to it
you
because
didn't miss anything.
I was making coffee.
The Albanian Von Traps, as Joel Creasy called them, as part of his great run.
Yes.
The Albanian Von Traps go to Eurovision. Look, I'm never going to beat. I think the greatest call in the history of Eurovision was Joel Creasy and Miff Warhurst when Israel happened. At one point, they returned to the vaginal helicopter, and
Okay. All right. I'm gonna bring this up right here. Albania offers the traditional
yep,
like um I suppose folk
conservative.
music-ish, conservative music. Um in a similar way that Spain did with something that's quite, ethnic. Which one do you prefer?
Do I have to pick one?
Yeah, if you pick one.
Oh God. I mean Spain because it feels more genuine. Albania felt forced. Like this was a family that just happened to all sing together. And I promise you, I'm anyone who's got Albanian heritage. I'm not making fun of Albania, but one of the hallmarks of Albania is the monobrow is big. And if you watch the clip at home where they're all sitting around the piano, they've all got the same monobrow. And by the time they got to Eurovision, they had all been waxed. Every single one of them had been waxed. So they styled themselves to look more Western. I'm literally saying that because that's what happened.
I just feel like it's a bit of a shame that um Albania got a lot more points than Spain. Because
No,
I
no,
thought it's
Spain got more than Albania.
I don't know, as in like from public.
Oh, the popular vote. Yeah,
Yeah,
but
popular vote.
again, I think the difference is that people understand Albania as much as it was bland and not good. It's familiar,
Conservative family value.
partly family values and partly just familiar in terms of it vaguely sounded like something they might recognize.
Is also is part of it as well, like they expect Albania to bring that.
I don't think they expect anything from Albania. It doesn't normally make the final.
No, but Albania usually bring
They normally bring
that kind of
something. They
music.
normally bring somebody who's folkish or traditional
Yes.
who thinks it's 1978. Um, and is performing for a 1978 audience. The surprise of the night. Now, I said I thought the surprise of the night would be Czechia, and Czechia was very good. But the surprise of the night for me was Italy. I did not see that doing what it did. By the way, they won the songwriting prize.
Yes.
174 in the popular vote, 176 from the juries, which I didn't see coming.
I really enjoyed Italy.
He's fine. I like Marco. He's fine.
Oh, he's fine.
I thought it was your stock standard Italian. We're going to sing a sort of ballady thing.
I really like how his voice matches the song, though.
If you watch San Remo, you hear that like 15 times.
True, that's very Italian.
Like if you watch San Remo, you hear that 15 times with a range of people singing it. Usually style gentlemen. Occasionally there'll be a woman with oversized cleavage. But if you watch San Remo, you will hear that song over and over and over again. You know, Måneskin were an outlier. That's Italy. In a nutshell, that's Italy. But it did so much better than expected. It came fourth. 350 votes overall. Not expected. The other one that wasn't
the popular vote and jury, they're about the same.
in that one there, they're the same. The one where it wasn't the same, Estonia. So Estonia came eighth, and 146 jury votes. Like 22 popular. Estonia is a very Estonia, Lithuania, Cyprus are for me the three most Eurovision songs that ever Eurovisioned. They're the nondescript Eurovision song. Everyone thinks of Eurovision as being the wacky and the weird or the no. Eurovision is the nondescript, absolutely harmless, somewhat ballad or slightly up-tempo number. Very slightly, not danceable, just enough of a beat. So it's either got to have enough of a beat or be a ballad, and it's a nondescript ballad. And Estonia was the most Eurovision-y ballad.
I prefer Lithuania than Estonia.
I feel
That's
like
me.
Again, I feel much like I talked about with, in the semi-final where I talked about Switzerland and the Netherlands, you can only have one. I think Estonia and Lithuania were two sides of the same coin. I just thought they were two sides of the same coin, and I can't say I preferred either of them because, gun to my head, probably Estonia and Bridges. But that's, I think the way she sang the word bridges probably made it slightly more memorable, to be honest. And it sounds weird to say that, but I'm not necessarily wrong. Bridges. That's, there you go. You got something. You remember what that was. Well, that was that bridges thing. Yeah.
See, I don't remember Estonia.
Well, you won't remember Estonia because the next song was Finland. And
I
thought there was going to be a riot. The audience just would not let this go. They were very loud and very active and very pro-Finland the whole night. And all the way through the voting, they kept hijacking the televote by chanting either for him or just chanting cha, 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 cha. And look, it was the best performance on the night. I'll say it straight up. It was the best performance on the night. He was brilliant. He nearly killed himself on one of the chords running around the box, but he just kept going.
I really enjoyed it. I I was surprised that jury votes that the jury actually gave pretty good points.
I think um I think there were, again, the jury was a bit weird this year. We're coming to Israel. Um but I think, you look, if Israel was getting votes, then Finland was definitely getting votes. Um if you could justify voting for Israel as a jury member, you could justify voting for Finland. Um
I do want to say this though. I also wonder whether the popular votes for Ukraine took a lot of points from some other countries.
Possibly. Well, I mean, we'll get into that in a minute, because I'll go through a couple more, and then we'll get into that, because I want to know where you think the votes might have gone, because that's an interesting one. Um, Czechia, again, I love Czechia. I really love it. And 10th is a really good result for Czechia. Um,
I loved it.
I thought their performance was really good. I'm staggered that it only got 35 votes from the popular, and only 94 from the juries.
That was the performance that gave me the longest goosebumps.
Czechia was wonderful. Like, the
Mm.
Czechia performance was genuine. Like, I've raved about that song the whole way through, and I will continue to rave about that song. I thought it was really well performed. So I think that, and look, Czechia was also in a really interesting spot, because Czechia had Finland on one side of them and Australia on the other side. Now, Australia did so much better with the juries than I thought,
Yeah.
and so much worse with the popular vote than I thought.
Yes. I was surprised by the popular votes for Australia.
Yeah, I was sure that Australia was going to. I thought Australia was going to do so much better with the popular vote and would struggle with the jury, and they went the other way. Um, Performance was great. Like, performance was great. Song's good. They're live. They're very good. If that is Australia's last one, it's a good one to go out on.
Do you think
Uh,
it's going to be the last one?
Christy raised a really good point before, which was, they also made a big point of announcing the return of Luxembourg. Luxembourg back in, Australia out feels appropriate.
Yeah.
I think Australia stays if Luxembourg and Turkey come back. If Turkey come back, I think Australia might stay, because then it balances up. So realistically, I think our return depends on what happens with Turkey.
I think I also wonder whether um the lack of popular votes actually affect the decision of Australia
I don't
going
think
to the competition.
I don't think the lack of popular votes will affect them at all. They made the final. It's Australia. Australia will view it. Look, the government will view it, and I've got to use this when people go, "Don't mention it." It's the government. It's like, the government will view it as promotion and marketing and Voyager's overseas sales, which they will get a lot of downloads off the back of this. They were very popular in all the party circuits. It's the chance to expose different Australian groups and different acts overseas and use them as front people for tourism and stuff like that, and get Australia out there a bit more. I think they view it as a bit of a success still. Um, I think it's a numbers game, and it depends on if you get two. If Turkey come back and Luxembourg come back, I think you get Australia again. I don't think I think Europe has gone from what the hell are they doing here to that's okay. They're fine.
You reckon?
Yeah, mostly.
I mean, I'm just looking at the popular votes. I mean, I would have expected that Australia would have gotten more points considering the performance. And I can't really think of any other reason than the fact that a lot of the countries still don't accept Australia being part of competition.
But I think, okay, then, but I think the other side of that too is there are countries that got far more votes than you would ever think of. Or there are a couple of other countries that should have got a lot more popular votes that didn't. I think the popular vote this year is a weird one. And I think literally this year you can put it down to being bizarre. I don't think it's a rejection of Australia so much. I think the COVID year was different. I think they were pissed off that we didn't turn up. And I think they were upset with us about that. I think we continue if the numbers work. I think it's purely the numbers. But if you've got two coming in, you're not going to take Australia out and unbalance it. You leave Australia in. It makes sense to me. And I think everyone would be happy to kick it along again. The other thing you got to think about too is it also might come down as well to the host broadcaster, and Australia and Sweden have a very good relationship. So if the host broadcaster gets to make a bit of a decision on that as well, Australia will be there because Sweden and Australia have a very good working relationship.
Who's next?
Belgium. I thought that Belgium was hitting you over the head far too hard with the message, and was using all the cliches they could think of to do it. But everyone seemed to like that. 127 jury votes, 55 popular votes, the 12 in the Australian jury. Belgium comes seventh.
It reminds me of somehow it reminds me of John Lundvik and the Mamas.
A little bit.
Maybe it's just because of the male singer with the
it's a bit as I call that song Too Late for Lunch. It's a bit too late for lunch.
It's okay. It's not to my taste, let's just say it that way.
No, I didn't
This
quite.
was my other toilet break.
I didn't quite get it. Then we have another one that I know we slightly disagree on, which is Armenia. Armenia Grande, as Christy called her. You liked her staging. I said that I liked her staging the first time when it was done. In Growing Old, in Growing Old is
growing up
old.
Is getting old.
Yeah, growing up is getting old.
I enjoyed it, and I really liked the addition of the dance break.
I thought the massive dance break was a large pile of crap. And it's the first time we're going to really see the dance break, but it's not the most egregious time we're going to see a dance break. Is it, Israel? We're going to come back to that in a minute. We're going to come back, I promise you. This was largely there. I don't think it was a particularly good anything. It was.
I think her voice. I really like her voice. Sounds quite angelic. And I think she performed the song really well.
Yeah.
Certainly, like if you're thinking of the female vocals of similar songs, I would think of Israel. I would think of the UK. Those three I would group together as being very similar. And out of the three of them, I thought Brunette actually performed the best.
Yeah, we'll talk about you. We'll talk about UK in a minute too. Moldova.
So that's why I'm not angry at this one.
Moldova still gives me the vibe of Tom Cruise in The Last Samurai. Like, it looks very much like a white guy who's pretending to play a samurai in a Hollywood blockbuster. Especially when he goes to sweep the leg on the little person playing the flute.
Oh, I was thinking of Brazilian capoeira.
No, I think that's what he was going for. Although Loreen was earlier, she could have told you. But um, I still also think that he hired the cast of the safety dance and just brought them all back. If that
I
one felt more about performance than about singing at all. The
I think so. I
person
mean, it's not. It's a very. It's a bit of a shabby kind of song, but I enjoyed it.
Ukraine, I'm just going to say two things about the Ukraine. One is that I subtitled this song, "We Don't Want to Host Again, Thanks." Um,
Yet the public still gave them a lot of the
of course they got Ukraine votes.
points that are not necessarily.
Of course they got Ukraine votes, but that's why they had to make the song what they made it, because they couldn't make it too decent. It had to be inoffensively fine, because they get some votes, but it couldn't be good enough that maybe it was a danger of winning, because Ukraine didn't want to go anywhere near that again. They did not want any part of that.
Can I say that the best Ukrainian performance for the night was Shum?
Oh, you definitely can. And we're going to talk about what happened with all of that. But Shum was, oh, what a and did you see the photo of her with what's it from Finland? She took a photo backstage and went, my 12 points.
Oh.
Oh, what a photo. And she was in green too. So they matched. It was beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
Then the other thing, by the way, was for those who don't know, Russia timed their latest strike in Ukraine to the start of the Ukrainian performance and struck the city where the guys were from. So they literally timed it to their performance. You know, who says that Russia, the banning Russia and stuff like that's not necessarily justified when, you know, Russia's still watching and using it as, you know, targeting practice. Although we'll talk a bit more about some of that and some of the maybe the hypocrisy that went on, won't we, Israel? Anyway, moving on.
Oh my God.
Oh, they're in for a serve. They're in for a serve. Next up, of course, is Who Lives in a Pineapple Under the Sea, Queen of Kings. No. Look,
Alessandra.
she finally put in the performance that everyone's been waiting for her from. Like, everyone's been waiting for her to put in the good performance. Her semi was not great. Again, the rehearsal, she missed notes. Her grand final was good. And given it was probably the first of the early favorites, it was one of the earliest songs released. Very early on, it was a favorite. Didn't do well with the juries. Obviously, we said she had a bad jury show. 216 in the popular vote. She was very much active on social media for the whole lead-in. So, if anything, that might actually be, and it's going to sound weird when you get 216, so the third most popular votes, and you go, it's a bit disappointing. But her whole campaign was popularity. So
the song is memorable though.
it's a battle cry sea shanty.
Yes. And there was nothing that was like that in the
No, it
show.
stood out. It stood out. And again, she finally gave the performance everyone thought was coming. So
I enjoyed it.
it was in the top 5 of performances for the night for me. It was easily in the top 5.
Oh, I don't think it was in the top 5 for me.
No, it was in the top 5 for me, but there were a lot that were.
It was probably top 10, but yeah.
It was a good. I thought it was a good night, but I thought for what we were expecting from her, she finally vaguely did it. Germany, we're never expecting to win. I didn't mind Germany actually.
I think it was such a shame that they got the loss, but the lost. Because I enjoyed it.
It was fine. I have no issue with it. And look, they're perfectly fine. They're about to go on tour with Iron Maiden. They're fine. Like,
yeah.
No one in Lord of the Lost is going, oh damn, there goes our career. They were great. I really enjoyed them. Lithuania, I've already said, is the most middling Eurovision entry to ever middle. Same side of the coin, as I said. Wasn't bad. It's just inoffensive.
I think it was memorable. Particularly the Lithuanian part.
See, I viewed the Lithuanian entry, and I'm about to say something which not many other people will do. Occasionally, I'll put a Eurovision on the background. It's an old one, put one on the background while I'm doing stuff. And there are songs that you tune into, and then there's the background noise ones where you're like, oh, yeah, I vaguely know what we're up to. I recognize, yeah. I watch this show back. That's going to be a background noise one. It's going to be yeah, it's there. Not horrible, not bad, just there.
Middle, yeah.
Okay, I've been winding up for this one. I'm coming in off the long run up.
I'm gonna let you have a go at this one.
Okay. First of all, I'm going to get briefly political. So if you would like to cancel me for this, skip 45 seconds ahead. There is a little bit of hypocrisy with everyone complaining about Russia and the Russian invasion of the Ukraine, and at the same time being very happy to vote for Israel. Just going to put that out there. Secondly, the dance break in the one that you didn't mind, I will accept if you will acknowledge the fact that of a 3-minute song, there was about 1:20 of dance break in this.
Do you want to see me dance?
No, we want you to sing. The Israeli Dua Lipa, her performance, so there's a couple of things that really irked me with this. The first thing is the Masada thing. So they do their postcards, and they did a postcard from Masada. Now, for those who don't know their history, Masada is a fortress where a particular group of Jewish people were held up against Roman invasion. And the Romans were sieging the fort, and they were out of food, and they basically were at the point where they didn't want to be taken alive. Now, the problem is that in the Jewish faith, if you commit suicide, you do not go to heaven. All right, that's a sin. So in the fortress of Masada, everybody inside the fortress draws lots to kill somebody else in the fortress. And they all took turns killing everybody in the fortress. And it was one of those great things of, screw you to the Romans, and it's a proud moment. And one guy, Josephus, who's the historian, gets out and writes about this. Everyone's like, how did he not die? What? Something's okay. But it's a sacred site. So what do they do for the postcard but take her sort of semi, bare-waisted, crop top, and she's bumping and grinding at the ruins of Masada. And I'm like, that feels like if anyone else went to an Israeli site like that and did that, they would be accused of being very insensitive. And she was shown having fun. Now let's get to the song, or should I say the dance break, because she was attempting something. She was attempting something that hasn't been done since Secret Garden with Nocturne, meaning a song with no words that was trying to win Eurovision, because I don't believe this had words. And furthermore, when they did the vote count and was doing the let's recap all the songs, the bit they picked for Israel had no singing whatsoever. It was the dance break. Like everyone else, they put like a bit of the chorus or a bit of this or a bit of that. When they did the Israel bit for these are the songs that perform tonight, they put the dance break in there. Like, so she didn't sing a word.
I think they're trying to use Noah as a bit of attraction, like someone to
completely
the points. Yeah,
they used the fact that she's young and supposed to be young and hot as a draw card, but
it's draw card. That's the word that I was looking for.
It was terrible. It was absolutely terrible. Now, my question, fine, I expect that the popular vote will vote for that stuff because it does. What the hell is wrong with the juries giving it 177?
Well, they must have been mesmerized by something. I don't know.
Like, there was almost no singing in the damn thing. Right? She goes, yeah, power of a unicorn. And then goes, want to see me dance? I'd like to hear more about this unicorn that you're talking about, please. Can we maybe do another verse on it? Make something up. Talk about its magical horn. Talk about it flying through the night for all I care about. I don't care. Come up with another verse. You had about 55 seconds to a minute 20 to sing another verse. Just do a dance routine. And apart from just the general dance routine, this is where we got, Joel and Miff, when they were doing it and talking about it, the vagina windmill was in this one, and it was so accurate. There were things in this show that I really enjoyed and really liked. There were things I was met about. There were things I was displeased about. And then there was Israel, which I was just angry about the whole time. I was raging about Israel. There's so much hypocrisy going on, so much crap going on. People look, this made me decide that Fuego was fine. And I hate Fuego. Absolutely hate Fuego. Because I think it did the same sort of thing. I think it was a dance number with an occasional lyric in there. The song ends up...
It was more than fine compared to this.
But that's what I'm saying, though. It made me suddenly go, I don't mind. I like Monza's version of Fuego because the song's actually okay when you just slow it down and sing it properly. But I didn't like her version of Fuego. But now, in comparison, I would watch Fuego 10 times out of 10 before I would ever watch this again. I think this is an absolute abomination, and I'm worried this is the direction the competition is going to go down more and more and more. We're going to get more of this.
Well, considering how much points she got.
That's what I'm worried about. We're going to get more of that crap.
I mean, you're already seeing it with Poland as well.
Yeah, well, Poland do it all the time. I mean, look, they even referenced it in the show when they had Mel Gadroich that with the butter churning, replicating the butter churner from a couple of years ago.
Controversial opinion.
Yep.
I prefer Rafal's The Ride than this year's Polish entry.
That's fair. But I thought this year's Polish entry was terrible anyway. But again, Israel, I was just angry. And third. How the hell does that come third? Sorry, but how the hell does that come third? Absolute garbage. Anyway, let's move on to a happier place now, which is 5 seconds of Slovenia.
5 seconds of Slovenia.
Good to see 5 seconds of Slovenia getting up and about, and they were apparently giving out condoms. Good for them.
How much point did they get from handing out condoms?
So 5 seconds of Slovenia got 33 of the jury votes and 45 of the popular votes. They came 21st. It's fine. It existed. Can I just say my favorite thing of the whole night was that the audience understood Croatia.
Oh.
I loved that the jury didn't get it and the audience really got it. And by the way, their performance was actually bloody good for the grand final.
I enjoyed their performance.
This was a song I said in the preview. I didn't quite get it, and I wasn't quite sure. I get it. It's absolutely brilliant. It's absolutely brilliant. They were fantastic. 112 in the popular vote, 11 from the juries.
It really grew on me.
Yeah.
So that I actually put it in my top 10.
Yeah, I had it up there. I thought it was great. And then we have Mae Muller. Whoever decided on the staging for Mae Muller, again, I'm assuming they were involved in the staging for Austria as well. There were things that she did really well in like other live performances and the clip that they did not do here at all. The other problem is I think that, and we've seen this a few times over the years, I think her voice was too weak for the vocal.
Was
And
she
I
partying
think
too hard?
Hmm?
Was she partying too hard the night before?
Possibly her vocal. The song is not a bad song, not a great song, but it's not a bad song. It's memorable enough.
I like the song. I
I
thought the vocal was just
She was flat for the first bit, and then the audience
the
joined in.
audience helped it.
And when the audience joined in, she got the pitch right. But
you don't want to be reliant on your audience to get things right, though.
And I mean, look, the audience, like, she came 25th out of 26. Right. 9 popular votes, 15 votes from the juries. Only Spain got less public votes.
And Spain is a niche song,
Yep.
unlike this, which is popular.
Yep. And I thought, again, the song is fine. I thought her vocal was really bad. I'm also wondering how much they were tuning her vocal all the way along, and then we got to the final and she suddenly had to do it and couldn't. That's a very real possibility. I'm also wondering why the UK, again, we've talked about this before, why the UK possibly didn't have somebody else slightly off to the side of the stage who could harmonize that vocal a bit, maybe drag it through. There are tricks in Eurovision that you can use. We all know what they are. I don't
Someone hiding behind the palm tree.
Hide behind the palm tree, put them inside the space helmet of, an act while 2 wolves dance. There's ways to hide the person who's actually singing the song. No, nothing says that the person singing the song has to be at the front, folks. They just have to be on the stage somewhere. So the interval act, before we get into our last sort of thoughts and votes and stuff, I liked it. I was so pleased to see Darty Freya finally get his moment on a grand final stage. Also, the best version of Hooligan I've heard ever. I thought it was really interesting that they didn't get the rights to any Beatles songs. They only got Imagine.
Oh, I know.
And I didn't like. Imagine was for me the weakest part of the whole thing.
I can't even remember who sang it.
It was What's He from
And that
Italy.
was today.
It was What's He from Italy. What's his name?
Oh, so Mahmood.
Yeah, Mahmood.
Hmm.
I didn't like Mahmood's vocal.
No, it was very mumbly.
Can I
But
also
his style of singing is mumbly though.
Can I also say the worst decision that they made was before they did that, the montage, the Liverpool montage. They got Sam Ryder up to sing his new song. And the big mistake with that was it was the first thing you heard sung after May. So it was like reminding you what the UK had sent the year before. And also you had, obviously, on drums, Roger Taylor from Queen on drums. Looking more and more like a hobo every day, Roger. But like having Sam Ryder perform immediately following May is...
That was shady.
Yeah,
That was very shady.
Didn't help her. Said Darty Freya singing Atomic Kitten Hole again was great. Cornelia singing Mel C was really good.
Oh, I love seeing Cornelia.
Cornelia Jacobs is fantastic. I think, look, the plus side about going to Sweden is we're probably going to get more Cornelia.
Hold me closer.
In terms of like the rest of it, you got Sonia from the UK came back out and sang Better the Devil You Know Than the Devil You Don't, which was a good little moment for her. That was nice. Also, my Liverpool loving heart got to hear You'll Never Walk Alone sung by Duncan, which was fantastic. And, again, Everton fans out there, they sang "You'll Never Walk Alone." They didn't sing Z Cars. They didn't sing Z Cars. They sang Liverpool's anthem. Suck it. Anyway, but that was a really nice moment, and you could see like Hannah Waddingham was struggling to, keep it together while that was happening.
You want to say Hannah Waddingham?
Yeah, well, let's talk about Hannah Waddingham, shall we?
Yeah, let's talk about Hannah Waddingham.
I made a statement earlier tonight to Christy when we were talking about it. I now think that Hannah Waddingham is the best Eurovision host we've ever had. I thought
I would have to say yes.
she was superb. The way she handled everything. She made Graham Norton tolerable. She kept the crowd in check in a way that was playful and fun, but also letting them know that this shit won't fly.
The other part that I liked was when she when it was finishing, and then oh my god, what's her name, the Ukrainian singer, how she gave her a hug, and I was like, that was really lovely.
Hannah Waddingham. There are people that have only ever seen Hannah Waddingham in Ted Lasso, or have only ever seen her in Game of Thrones. Hannah Waddingham is an absolutely brilliant theatrical actress too. And she played the Lady of the Lake in the London West End version of Spamalot.
She was not nominated for
no, but she's absolutely brilliant. And Hannah is like, she's got the right everything for the role. Like, she was personable, she was friendly, she knew what she was doing. She was playful in the way she did it. Like, I love Petra, but occasionally Petra can feel very heavily scripted. Hannah doesn't feel heavily scripted, even when she's very heavily scripted. She just feels natural.
The dresses.
Oh,
love the dresses that she
Hannah Waddingham was, those outfits were incredible. The outfits were absolutely incredible. She was unbelievably, all of them were really good, but I thought Hannah Waddingham was next level. And I would, if Sweden decided to go with Petra Merd and ask Hannah Waddingham to come back again, I wouldn't say no. I'd be happy with that. I get the feeling we're going to have Mons again. It's time. It's time. Mons had a year. He was there, but he didn't do as much as you'd expect him to do. So, given that he lives in the UK, I've actually thought we'd see a lot more of him.
He did a lot of the YouTube stuff.
He did the YouTube stuff. The other thing that the other cameo that we got that was very limited, and I was disappointed it was very limited, was we got about 4 seconds of Ruslana.
Of whom?
Ruslana. She was literally standing on the steps during "You'll Never Walk Alone" with all the Ukrainians.
Oh.
That was the most we got of Ruslana. I'm like, where's Ruslana? The other thing was, you mentioned with the different performances we got, we also did get, as you mentioned, we got another run through of Shum. And we also got dancing. We got
dancing last week. Oh my god.
Yeah.
That was a great performance, and that was quite early.
Yeah, it was the flags. It was the dancing. Parade of Nations. We got Tina Carroll as well. I don't know why we got Tina Carroll, because she's not that good. Show Me Your Love is not a great song. It's not a memorable song. She didn't particularly do brilliantly that year. I'm assuming it's because I assume that Ruslana is still in the Ukraine. She was a member of parliament at one point, so I'm assuming she's still in Ukraine. So that might be why that might be why we didn't get her, but we got Tina Carroll live instead. But and then the voting all happened, and it was weird, and the votes went all over the place, and Israel kept getting big votes from a jury. And it was very clear that Loreen was probably going to get over the line here. And then we got to the popular votes, and the popular votes were like missing. And everyone was like, where the hell are the popular votes? They're just not appearing. Because people were getting 15 and 23 and 37. Ukraine obviously did okay, and you wanted to mention that about the idea of those Ukraine votes.
Yes.
If we look at Ukraine, because I've been really interested in this, I'm going to look at the public votes for Ukraine. So the public votes for Ukraine, Czechia gave 12 to Ukraine. They gave 10 to Finland. Moldova gave 12 to Ukraine. They gave 7 to Finland and 8 to Sweden. Ukraine got 12 from Poland and 12 from Portugal, and both of them gave their 10 to Finland. There's a 10 there for Ukraine, and Sweden only got a 5 and 12. Yep. I think that a majority of, if you take the Ukraine votes out, you might be right here. Ukraine might be the difference between Finland and Sweden winning.
That's one.
Yep.
The second one is the missing jury votes for Norway and France.
Yes.
Imagine if Norway and France got more points during the jury show.
Yep.
Or if the jury had to mark it based on
like
performance on,
like here, for example, Armenia gave France 7 points on the jury show. They gave Sweden 10. They gave Finland 8. That's an interesting one. They gave Israel 12. I wonder if Israel did so well in the jury show because Norway and France screwed up. And they needed to go somewhere. And that's 2 of the favorites.
And do you think that'll affect the vote for Sweden?
Probably, because I think it means that Sweden probably moves further clear if you say that you had, if you bunch them, Sweden, France, Norway, Finland, as not in any order in terms of the other 3. But if you sort of say they were the 4 that everyone was like, these are heavy hitters. All right. And 2 of those screw up. Sweden and Finland, then there's a void.
Yes.
So Israel steps in to fill that void because they were unexpectedly good. And unexpectedly good is just, it was poppy and it was, it was up tempo and wow, that was fun. And the positioning of it was 4 from the end.
Yeah.
So it's in the right spot. There's been errors coming from 2 of the favorites. You need something else to jump up there. Well, why not Israel? So it probably had a lot to do with it. It was funny when the public vote came in for Finland. 2 things can be true. I instantly knew that Finland wasn't winning. That wasn't a big enough lead. There were still 607 votes on the board when they got their votes. So there were still too many votes left on the board. But I also thought that was a message from the public. And the public was very clear with what they wanted, and it wasn't necessarily Lorraine.
Mm-hmm.
So
that was interesting.
Well, Lorraine won the creative award, and she also won the press award.
Yeah, I saw that before the grand final.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I have thoughts. I just feel like it's, yeah. Sweden were the favourites before they even picked Loreen, and then they picked Loreen, and Sweden was by far the favourite before anyone had even really heard the song. And I think a majority of juries voted Loreen because Loreen. I don't think they were voting on the song. I think they were voting on the person.
Yeah, I would have to agree with that.
But having said that and made it sound like the whole thing sucked, I actually thought it was a very enjoyable Eurovision.
It was yeah, I think it was a very enjoyable show.
It ran
I,
fast. It's the fastest the voting's ever run for me.
it was worth waking up at 4:30 for.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It was. I enjoyed it. I enjoyed all of it. Again, I was disappointed in Sweden winning, but not a capital offense. Just wasn't a fan of it. Israel, on the other hand, raging about Israel, and will be raging about Israel for a fairly long time yet. But look,
Yeah, I'm not raging about Israel. I'm raging about Austria.
yeah, and I'm really upset about France. But I said that I thought Czechia would do really well. Czechia did really well. Australia did really well. Overall, it was a good show. I mean, Germany and the UK will be pissed off that they came 25th and 26th. But to be fair, the UK had their moment in second. That's time they went back to the bottom of the board. And again, Germany don't really care. Any last thoughts?
It has been a very interesting Eurovision season.
Mm-hmm.
Now I'll have to think about something else to look forward to other than Eurovision. Not until December when the national finals start happening.
I was going to say the hype for the national final starts earlier than ever now. So, expect the first hype for national finals to come in about July. So you'll start hearing songs appearing at that point. I think they need to rethink the way they do the juries. I think the juries might need to watch the rehearsal and start forming an opinion, but vote off the back of the public show, because that's fairer. And I think you're voting on the same thing, then you're not voting on different things.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Overall, a pretty good Eurovision. We're going back to Sweden, so look forward to everyone going from, wow, we're in Sweden, to, oh my God, everything's so expensive in Sweden.
I was about to say that.
It's going to happen. Also, wait for the lobbying where someone is going to try to convince ABBA to write the song for Sweden. I will put money on it. Benny and Bjorn are songwriting at the moment. I guarantee it, for the 50th anniversary of ABBA, they're going to try to get ABBA to write the song.
Or performance?
They won't do it.
No?
They won't perform it. You might.
Nothing like performance, like half.
I don't know if they'll perform. I mean, let's face it, the only way they're actually performing is through holograms. I liked their latest stuff, by the way. I thought it was really good. But
you know what I think is going to happen?
Mm-hmm.
They're going to get all the previous winners to do
Sing.
Their version of ABBA songs.
Yep, I really hope Loreen sings "Winner Takes It All." She knows the tune. And with that bit of snark, we're going to leave it there. Thank you, Nurman, for joining us and running through all this with us. It's been an absolute delight to talk Eurovision with you. We're back. Chrissy and myself will be back very soon, because the next series of the Great Australian Bake Off is about to start. We will be back very soon, and we have some very exciting things up our sleeve, and they will be happening within a couple of weeks. So we'll be back on the feed, and we'll catch you all later.
Bye.